So there's this guy. He's the quintessential, turns out, reason for trauma informed education and culture change initiatives. This guy, Logan Paul, before the story, I'm not a big YouTube personality guy, being up on that. Um, Before the story, I had not heard about him. I didn't know who he was. He's a YouTube personality. I can't quite seem to understand the value added perspective. Uh, he decided to sort of wallop around Japan, and I guess he was flopping raw fish in people's faces. He threw Pokeballs at the police, just being a general a hole, which people will watch, sure. It blew up for him when he was the part of the video blog he was doing, where he waltzed into, in Japan, was what's kind of referred to as a suicide forest. Uh, and forgive me for pronunciation. I have no sort of background in learning how to pronounce Aokigahara. Okay, I'm lying. I have some background in pronouncing Japanese names. I watched the Mariners growing up, and so I can pronounce Ichiro Suzuki. So Aokigahara is a forest. It lies sort of at the base of Mount Fuji, and it's a place with a lot of mythology surrounding death. He basically, in the video, he exploited a lifeless body of someone who had completed suicide by hanging, from a tree, for clicks that would, of course, come from the shock of the video. He took time. He did this again. I'm not sure why this guy was famous in the first place, but I'm a cranky old millennial. But he did this interview. He's been trying to rebrand and sort of say, I learned, I'm a better person. I think is what he's going for. With Michael Strahan on ABC, and you can kind of tell. I'm not sure. I'll play just a brief clip of that, but we'll see.
100 yards away from the parking lot. It doesn't make any sense, and I believe it happened for a reason, and I think that reason is so I could take this experience, learn from it, spread the message the right way about suicide prevention and suicide prevention awareness.
So he's kind of turning that around and sort of saying, well, this guy's suicide that I walked up on and then just made a goofy video about, it happened so that I could learn not to exploit that for YouTube monetization. And so now I believe in getting the word out about suicide prevention. You know what? As far as mental health goes, I we'll take imperfect allies. I don't have any particularly kind of respect, for what his YouTube page offers. I'm sure the broad majority of his followers would probably not care what I would have to say about things, but that's just the way it is. But if he's reformed now and he's going around and saying, be aware of suicide. He kind of talked later about, oh, I'm going and I'm doing this initiative now and I'm hugging people who tell me their stories and whatever. That's fine. Just kind of, it's kind of an interesting commentary on sort of, there's a lot of YouTube content out there that's I never really understood, and I think a lot of parents and older generations don't really understand sort of what is kind of going on, but just goofy videos that people do for a living, and sometimes, and the barrier to entry is so different from what it used to be. It used to be you had to have all the certain qualifications or some kind of something. You had to be somewhat knowledgeable, maybe not always, but generally speaking. But that barrier to entry is kind of taken down by YouTube. So it's got positives and it's got negatives, and people that can just make goofy videos about just being a bro just around the world or whatever, can actually, you can gain a platform and a voice from that, and make some money from that, and so that happens. And so it's, so occasionally they interact with serious topics like this, and it's not entirely surprising that there's some immaturity if the person was immature in other ways. If he was throwing pokeballs at people in Japan, big shocker, he wasn't the most trauma informed individual, or culturally, sort of aware personality. So, again, we'll try to take a little bit of grace on this and just say imperfect allies. If you want to be generally just, okay, supportive of people who are going through suicide, contemplating suicide, going through suicidal thoughts, I should say, just feel free to talk about it with them. Mentioning suicide specifically has actually been statistically proven. When you're concerned about someone and you bring it up, it's been proven to actually decrease the chance. A lot of people have had this sort of old tale that it increases suicide or puts an idea in their head or something. Well, that's not the case. Bring it up. If you're concerned that someone's considering it, directly talk to them. Say, obviously kind of do it in a way that's appropriate based on the relationship that you guys have, but just be direct about it. Say, ask them if they're considering taking their life, if they're considering killing themselves, or attempting suicide, and be supportive of that, and contact if you need to, sort of agree to maybe take some steps if they are sort of going in that direction. If they have access to weapons or means to suicide, be aware of that, and sort of try to get in contact with the mental health professional and talk about limiting that access for a short period of time, or just generally just talk, just offer your concern, and be available and be assertive. It's not a bad thing. I know we hate to interject ourselves in people's lives, especially depending on the personality, but just do it. It's worth sort of being out of character or being uncomfortable or making them feel uncomfortable for a little while, because largely speaking, they're going to appreciate the fact that you sort of interjected and sort of asserted yourself, and maybe were a little overbearing for a little while to save their life. And the suicide prevention hotline number is, if you're considering suicide, call 1-800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Talk to someone, contact a mental health professional, call the suicide prevention hotline. Just get help. I mean, we all are here, and we're all imperfect. So there's a lot of imperfection, but suicide is a thing that lasts for a certain while. But I should say the ideation, the thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, the feeling like suicide is an option is something that lasts for a little while, but it's not permanent. And if you can see past that, then you have an opportunity to sort of try things new. So that's, we'll take it, Logan Paul. All right, I hope you're reformed now and you don't do any of those you will, never mind. But just don't be an ass about suicide.